Hello and welcome. I'm Tom Darwood and I'm making this recording impromptu on Monday, the 23rd of September 2025. Last week I came back from an exhausting trip to Holy Island and where the sycamore tree was cut down. I want to go to Holy Island because I'm making a campaign on my own to be considered as the next Archbishop of Canterbury. So I thought the best place to start is where Christianity started many, many thousands of years ago. When I was there, I had my banner, and one lady went by and says, "Are you a bishop? How can you become the next Archbishop of Canterbury if you're not even a bishop?" So I said to her gently, she was slightly abrupt but not rude. I said, "We all rely on God's grace. Whatever we do and strive, it's in God's grace that we achieve these things." And I said to her, "Keep an open mind." And then she walked away. Now, the next lady that passed by says, "Oh, this looks interesting." And she had an open mind. So I said to her, "Well, I've come from 300 or 400 miles away to make a video and my single campaign with no support by anybody else to be considered as the next Archbishop of Canterbury. I'm here because I want to address our great country of its religion, Christianity, and I'm a Christian, and of its culture." And I said, "I've got a very easy way to join the two together." And when I did, I showed her my football anthem, my World Cup football anthem, and FIFA will be very interested. But I set it to the tune of a famous Christian hymn, such as "Onward Christian Soldiers." So, and then I've also written new words to "Onward Christian Soldiers" in order to bring Christianity level pegging with 21st century Britain, which is the World Cup. And that's on now, isn't it? So that's the culture, the World Cup, an example of British culture, possibly the nation's best loved sport, and then possibly Christianity's most well loved hymn, "Onward Christian Soldiers." So the lady gave me a nice smile. So what I said to her I'll do, I will sing the new words to "Onward Christian Soldiers" first to show the backbone of this country, which is Christianity. And then it gets infused into the World Cup anthem so that Christianity is not Bible bashing. It's a very discreet way of supporting our most well-loved culture, which is sport. And she was getting very excited, I can tell you. So I began to sing the first verse. As there's 5 verses, it'd be too long. People don't have time. So her husband and her dog Buster were watching rather. So I found out their names afterwards. So I was singing this to Mary. "Strong in faith, believer, fear not the unknown. One in trust before us, him we can believe. Christ our royal captain, bidding him arise. Take him at his calling, be the chosen few. Christian, in thy service, Christ calls thee to faith. This is perfect freedom, living in his grace." Now, I first sang that en route to Holy Land, and the woman was extremely impressed with those words. She says. So I carried on singing to Mary the first verse of my World Cup anthem to the tune of Onward Christian Soldiers. Onward, England, onward, make us proud again. We are right behind you, with our love maintained. On that field of glorious green, with our hopes contend. Strive to glory, be your story, make us proud again. Onward, England, onward, make us proud again. We are right behind you, honour this beautiful game. A young lady called Rebecca came afterwards, and she was extremely impressed with the words to my World Cup anthem. Unfortunately, I'm not very used to downloading. I deleted my video instead of saving it. But I think Rebecca was very impressed, and Mary and her husband and Buster were all very impressed with the simplicity of this idea. There's no preaching to be done, no big theological debate, but something very subtle, very gentle, and I hope effective. I've managed to be on an island where Christianity started, I'm not sure how long ago, over 1,000 years ago, and I brought Christianity meaningful right up to date by connecting a very well-loved Christian hymn, but giving it a rebirth. So you can see the family likeness. I call these hymns, of 100 of them, my spiritual grandchildren. And that I want the Church of England, if I'm to be appointed, I want to do this for the Church of England because I think it's going to work. I think when the British people see this, they'll be laughing and I'll take the smile off their face. They'll see the simplicity of what I'm doing. Who remembers a sermon? But they'll remember the connection between a famous hymn with a World Cup anthem, and nobody's written the World Cup anthem. FIFA, I'll be waiting for your call. So that is the simplicity what I can do in my new website called Unite to Save Ukraine. Sorry, that could be another one. Unite to Save UK. My apologies to Ukrainian people. We will be supporting you, I can assure you that. What I do, ladies and gentlemen, in this lovely book, and I compiled this book about 5 weeks ago, between 5 and 3 weeks ago, just when the flags were going up all over England. The timing of that is very important that I convey to you, ladies and gentlemen, because everything I do is endorsed through timing and of events. I was a candidate in the 2024 general election, where one of my manifestos was, I said, I'm ready to become the future Archbishop of Canterbury. There's a whole section called C of E in my menu, and the menu was enormous. There must have been about 20 subjects. But at the end of that general election in November, I don't know which date, I felt I had to write a letter and physically send it to the Prime Minister. The letter was A4, 11 font, from top to bottom. I explained to the Prime Minister, since 1972, I felt God was guiding me to become the future Archbishop of Canterbury. Now, I said to the Prime Minister at the end of the letter, having explained, and it's in my website, I said, will you now appoint me as the next as the next Archbishop of Canterbury? and I posted it by hand. I first sent a short letter addressed to the new MP for Southend, East and Rochford, and I physically drove round to the office in Sutton Road, Southend-on-Sea. And lo and behold, the lights were up, but there was nobody inside. And I saw boxes and boxes of poppies, so it was near Remembrance Day. And I physically pushed it through the letterbox, the two letters explaining, one to the MP and so forth. Now, within 4 hours of that letter being dropped in to Sutton Road Labour Party office, the explosion in the media was all about the resignation of the incumbent, the present Archbishop of Canterbury, Dr. Welby. The timing could not have been more perfect, and this has happened to my life on many, many occasions. I've just given you that one example. Now, when I came back last week, I was absolutely exhausted. I had to carry all this stuff, and you want to know how old I am. I'm 11 days younger than the world's biggest megaphone. You have to work out who the biggest megaphone. So megaphone gets the loudest noise across the media. You soon get him, and you get to know my birthday. When I came home, I asked God, I don't want to contact hundreds and hundreds of people. I'm just not like that. I'm not media savvy, so I thought. And then as I opened my phone, up popped the former Archbishop of Canterbury, Dr. Rowan Williams. I thought, brilliant. I wrote to him many, many years ago, and he liked what I was saying about what I'm doing. He used the word, this is very original. Now, this is a very, very intelligent man, very highly respected, former great theologian. And I knew he was too busy. I said, I wrote back, so I wish, Dr. Williams, I can talk with you. And I had to reply from his secretary, Dr. Williams' calendar is full. He's sorry he can't speak to you. But at least he wrote back. Now, when I saw the article, having come back from Northumberland, that was on Friday night, I was so tired I had to have the weekend to rest. I don't go searching in the internet for things. I just pick up something on my phone, open it up, and there was the article in the Church Times, dated so Saturday the 22nd, 21st, something like that. And he was talking about not the next Archbishop of Canterbury, because he's very discreet, but I think he alluded to it. He was saying, what should we expect an Archbishop of Canterbury to do? And he immediately ruled out, excuse me, an idea of bringing someone who was a CEO, a managerial person. He said, no, we don't want that kind of person. The person we want needs to do just two things. The moral compass of a nation addressed by an archbishop, and the preaching of the gospel centered upon the Lord Jesus Christ. Those two entities, he stressed, was the most important thing. And he didn't say the future Archbishop of Canterbury, so he was wise. He didn't want to pinpoint himself. But I'm going to use this, Dr. Williams. If you're listening to this, watching this video, I'm going to appeal to you graciously, humbly, and respectfully. Please, can I have that conversation with you soon? Because what you've just done is placed a finger on what I just did in Holy Island when I spoke to Rebecca, the young lady, and to Mary and her dog Buster and her husband. I showed them straight away an example to stress what you have just said was so important that an archbishop must do. I've given you an example. I'm totally useless on the internet. I even deleted the video that I made, having gone all that distance, when I thought I had whatever you call it, downloaded it. So that's how useless I'll be as a CEO. I'll be the church will be up. Well, it's already upside down, but I'll take that remark back. What I have done, Lord, Your Grace, I've given you a perfect example of how savvy I am in the way that you want the future Archbishop of Canterbury to be. Football is the nation's supreme secular activity. Preaching the gospel through a hymn is the most profound, beautiful, and simple thing you can do. Forgive me, Your Grace, but how many people remember any sermon that you preached? Everybody loves a hymn. There is a hymn, I believe, in every person's background. All things brighten, there is a green hill, oh come, oh you, and so on and so forth. That is British culture, and that, I believe, sir, is what these flags are about. Now I'm going to use the flags to my advantage. And this is how my mind works in terms of doing something spot on. As I said earlier, I compiled this booklet about 4 or 5 weeks ago, just 2 weeks ahead of the flags all going up. And I went to Basden, where I used to live, and I showed it to a lady called Helen. She's got a lovely daughter called Jasmine, and her son called Franklin. I love Jasmine because she gave me a great big cuddle twice, but it's in front of her mum. And she said, yeah, Tom, this booklet sounds great. That's just the sort of thing we need, because what the flags are saying is we want our country back. That's what's behind it. But they don't want to get involved with the argument, we want our country back, but we don't want immigrants. You see the difficulty. These people have a genuine concern. They're not right-wing, they're not racist. They are more like the football supporter. That's why I think this would go down well with them. They are just down-to-earth people who, because of government policy, have gone over the top with immigrants in terms of numerical supremacy. They've just gone over, and that is part of the reason why Britain has lost its culture. There's a much more profound reason why Britain has lost its culture, which has nothing to do with immigration whatsoever. And here, Your Grace, I'm going to have this conversation with you now as if I'm speaking to you. What the flags have, I only realised this when I came back and I was so tired. I thought, you idiot, why did you spot this earlier? The flags are flown at half-mast. Then I began to think, half-mast means generally when you have lost a loved one or a great figure in the country has died, a prime minister, a monarch, and so on and so forth, or whatever, half-mast when a great general or admiral has died. You mourn the loss of something. That's my point. Now, Your Grace, I remember when I sent you those, and I sent you the complete tuition course, which this is only a snippet of. So if people ask me, what is my tuition course about? This is an example of what my tuition course can achieve, manifold. So if you went through my tuition course, you can create a dozen of these booklets from your perspective. So there's an example of what my tuition course can achieve. Now, in my totality of what I'm saying, Lord Williams, if he was here, I used a graphic that was created many years ago of a kitchen drawer. So imagine the kitchen drawer. On the face of the drawer, when it's top, middle or bottom, we all know what the top, middle and bottom mean. Pots and pans at the bottom with a big drawer. The middle one, kitchen, I don't know, cloths, tea towels. The top one usually has kitchen utensils. But the utensils are inside the drawer. So what I did with the graphic was, if you open the drawer, look inside, you see images which relate to Western civilization. And on the face of the drawer, you see images of Western civilization's chief religion, which is Christianity. So you get figure of Adam and Eve on the left, figure of the Pope, figure of a cathedral, and so on and so forth. Now, inside the drawer, you see images of a children's carousel, a Mayflower, Einstein's theory of relativity, E equals mc squared. Then you see three great artists, Shakespeare, Rembrandt, and Beethoven. And also you have a picture of the NHS to symbolize Western culture. Now, what I said in the totality of all that I'm saying, which the church hasn't said because they couldn't see it coming, Christianity began with the figure of Christ, but it was completed by Western civilization to denote what God had in mind in the allegorical Eden of Genesis. In Genesis 2:19, I found a passage which describes everything that I'm about, which God has put in my shoulders to convey to firstly the Church of England, to the monarch, and to Parliament, and the British people. In this era which we call colonialism, God achieved what he had in mind for humanity, which was alluded to in Genesis 2:19. And what Genesis 2:19 simply says is, let us see what Adam will call what we have made. And Adam called every living creature the correct names, meaning God ensured Adam, i.e. / humanity, would be given understanding of what God had created, not just in the physical world, but the biological, the scientific world, the human heart, the human mind, what flesh and bone means, what oxygen means, what science and art means. And this came about through the Renaissance to denote great art and the Enlightenment to denote great science. And within that orbit, Christianity is central faith to denote God's presence within that environment, to replicate the environment of the Eden of Genesis, the allegorical Eden of Genesis. Now here's how I'm using the flags to denote the loss of something far, 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 far greater. And it is this era called the colonial era. That is what has been lost. By that I don't mean the British Empire. No, 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 no. What I mean is since the 1950s, when this great era came to a close at the accession of Elizabeth II, and I have an entire story to tell regarding how important Her Majesty's reign is, how it ended, to place a finger on what I'm saying. That since the Renaissance and the Enlightenment, that great creative era, which also includes a definitive expression of Christianity, that was the thing that God had in mind always for humanity to possess, so that he could have fellowship with humanity in a coherent, ordered and well-developed way. And I don't know if you understood that, Dr. Williams, but you did give me a compliment. You said, this is an original idea. I want to speak to you, Your Grace, please. You can set me in front of the nation's eyes, in front of the Prime Minister, and I think I've earned it. And I want your endorsement behind it, because I think you touched upon it and you couldn't dig deeply with me because of the time factor. Now is a time factor. Can you see by reading the Times article, I accidentally, well, it's more than that, God is guiding me, because I was absolutely exhausted coming back. It's only today, Monday, I've got the energy to do this video. What I'm saying now, Dr. Williams, these flags have come as an opportunity to represent not the loss of the country, of the culture that the British people who's put all these flags up. Had they put the flags up not half mast, but to full mast, yes, that's what I believe I can do to symbolise I have been prepared since 1972 to show how the Church of England can lead the British people into a new era, to emulate the creative era which we call colonialism. So you see, Dr. Williams, how fortuitous your article has been. So I'm calling upon you twice now, because you've got two shoulders, so one on the other. But I'm looking into your eyes, I'm looking into your mind, and I'm calling upon you, Dr. Williams, as if I'm only speaking to you and you alone, because I want everybody else to contact you, say, Dr. Williams, this guy called Tom Darwood, he's got something, and he wants to give it to everybody. My tuition course is entirely devoted as a fast-track learning curve in order to get that creative era back, which is underlined by get our country back. That's what those flags really mean for everybody. And we mustn't keep thinking that's the right wing. It is not. I can raise those flags to full mast in order to convey this tuition course, beginning with this tiny booklet. If this was in every street. Now here's my simple idea, Dr. Williams. In every parish throughout Britain, under the responsibility of the Church of England and all other churches if they want, we create a ceremony, because the British are very clever. They create everything ceremonial, like a cup of tea in the afternoon. It's a ceremonial. So I've learnt this lesson. What we do under each lamppost, when we have the council there, we raise that flag symbolically of all the flags throughout the country, and we raise it to a full mast. Now that can't offend anyone, can it? So I'm bringing all the people who find the flags at half mast troublesome, which is perfectly understood, concerning, perfectly understood, difficult, unsettling. Yes, all these things are true, but I can use this as an opportunity symbolically to say this flag at half mast firstly represents what God said to Moses. Can I give you a quick example, very quick, to show when I understood this? I asked God to show me how on earth am I going to explain to the British people how complex all this is. And it came again. God said, look at His word, the Bible, and it's the story of Moses across the desert. When Moses went across the desert, he escaped from the tyranny of Egypt. During the journey across the Exodus from Egypt, God downloaded all the laws for the Israelites to comply with to enter the promised land and build a new nation. Now, during this journey, God was also giving a personal tuition call to Joshua. And when the journey across the desert reached in sight of the promised land, God forbade Moses to enter the promised land because he wanted Joshua to lead the Israelites into the promised land. And there's one record in which when Moses left the tent, Joshua was alone with God and God wanted to speak to Joshua. That's how important Joshua is. Now, that is a perfect analogy of the last 500 years. What the Almighty has done, ladies and gentlemen, Lord, whatever Williams, I'm also speaking to the British people. But I want you to help me to speak to the British people. The last 500 is exactly like what God did with Moses. But this time the Exodus is not from the tyranny of Egypt. The Exodus is from the tyranny of our evolutionary nature, which lacked understanding. That is what God achieved in the last 500 years. He educated us through art and science. And that era has come to an end at the accession of Elizabeth II. And I believe it's so easy to trace the loss of our... When people say we want our country back, they're thinking of Britain when it was at its greatest during empire. I'm absolutely certain of that. But if you challenge them and say, well, no, we don't want empire. No, nobody wants empire. But we want the culture which created empire. There's a difference. Since the 1950s, the Church of England, who was symbolic of the nation's moral code, led the way across that journey. And since the 50s, it has gone downhill, lost its stature. And the country has also lost its stature because it's lost its culture of duty, deference, and reserve. The three greatest attributes I believe the British people achieve. So you see, Dr. Williams, what I'm saying makes very good sense. And it has nothing to do with immigration. Although immigration has intensified the downward, and it is a downward spiral. People might object to that word downward spiral, but I'm thinking of it relative to the culture that once made the British people so great and respected throughout the world. So I want to try and bring this to a conclusive end, but one which is meaningful, visionary, and powerful. The flags, we could make a ceremony round in every borough, get it properly organised throughout the whole country so that everybody knows what these flags can represent. Because at the moment, it's a free-for-all. But if my message gets through, Your Grace, with your help, I believe this can work, sir. I really believe this can work. Because it is given to everybody a vision of what raising the flag to full height can mean. It will mean symbolizing the nation's advancement to restore what they have lost. Flags at half mast means loss. Flags written at full mast means a restoration of that loss. And I've laboured almost 50 years with just my cat and my family to keep me company. You see this hand, Your Grace? You see that hand? I know less people than the fingers on that hand. And I certainly have no friends to fill the spaces. But on this hand, the biggest space is occupied by my darling mother. She will always be in my thoughts and my friend. And two other people, a married couple, occupy those two spaces. And I want to see who can occupy this third space. It may be yourself, Dr. Williams, because I know hardly anybody. And yet I've dedicated my entire life to conveying this understanding. I don't convey a vision. I convey an understanding so that the British people can take it as a vision themselves. I don't want things to be relied upon me. I'm quite a quiet person when you get to know me, but I'm vociferous in what I believe. Now I want to finish, if I may, and it's not even in this booklet because I'm working at turbo speed. I've written, having created the website unitetosaveuk.com, I've actually written an anthem called Unite to Save UK anthem. And again, I've done the same trick as the football anthem. This time, I've set it to the hymn, He Who Would Valiant Be, one of my favourites. A wonderful tune. So I'm going to sing again to show the responsibility that I will take on my shoulders, but not alone if I become appointed as an interim Archbishop of Canterbury, because I won't be like the normal Archbishop. I don't know a dicky bird about how to govern a synod. That's not what's needed at the moment. What is needed is exactly what you said in the Church Times. And I hope people buy the Church Times, but it is a great Christian newspaper. And it is fortuitous, coming back from that long journey last week, the first thing I saw in my phone was your article in the Church Times, when you stressed the importance not to have a future Archbishop of Canterbury as a CEO, someone who's very conversant with the General Synod and all the business of running, etc. And you're giving me the opportunity to say something, I hope not arrogantly, obviously, but I want to make my pitch, so to speak, Your Grace. I have something which I believe the nation is. Look, I just read in More Flags Are Going Out, many people are saying if an alternative to the United Kingdom, I would join that alternative. I believe I can create that alternative. You see, the United Kingdom are only flying flags. They haven't got tuition call. They haven't got this. I have an encyclopedia of hymns, anthems, and poetry. And in my website, I said, this little book will feed an army of patriots. I really believe this. It will feed an army of patriots. So I want to finish, Your Grace, ladies and gentlemen. I can't keep up. I've also written Raise the Colours anthem. Two Paris, Jerusalem. And I've also written A Rebirth of Jerusalem. I'll just sing the first and last verse of Raise the Colours anthem, to Jerusalem, the tune Jerusalem. Let us rejoice with song and praise, raise up the colours of St. George. This mystic flag we proudly wave, long in our hearts remain a cause of all that gives to life a cause that strives with operation zeal, yields not to foe who would disdain our pride in England's pleasant land. With open hearts we welcome all the colours of St. George bequeathed, a nation touched with divinity that gives to every age renown. This wealth of learning span the years, reach height and depth with equal praise to all whom cross the narrow sea, comply with England's pleasant land. Think how this folk their tale recites beneath the colours of St. George, this land of bounty fitly framed, and fills to all whom would endear themselves acquaintance of this land, if from their former lands bereft, return with gifts once richly blessed in England's green and pleasant land. This is my song, come join our throng. See, unlike the United Kingdom people, and I'm with them, I understand them, I welcome them, but I want them to come into my fold because I have got education, I have got song, I have got verse, I have got a passion play, I have got an entire tuition course, and the end achievement are two arboretums as training centres for the world's refugees, to build two new nations for the world's refugees, by the world's refugees. So I have an entire backup, not just to fly flags. And they may well answer the problem regarding the war in Ukraine and the conflict in Gaza. So I'm not just about singing anthems or the rebirth of Christian hymn. I have a real, tangible, meaningful. These two arboretums, firstly, would be the equivalent, the cultural equivalent to the Olympic Games. That's how powerful these two arboretums will be, because they are going to set the foundations for nation building, which is what Joshua was prepared to do. One of my titles is Joseph 77. I'll explain that in another video. But another of my titles is Joshua, meaning to lead the Church of England, to lead the British people into a new era of nation building, to get back what was lost, symbolised by the flags at half-mast, to give preparation to enter our promised land by raising the flag at full mast. So imagine all these masts can come down, but one remain up in every borough to symbolise the nation's strive towards this new goal, this new vision. So here again, I'm going to sing new, and listen to the last two lines very, very carefully, ladies and gentlemen. A rebirth to he who would valiant be. And I'm going to pitch it a little bit low so that I can reach the third verse, which is very high. What against our hearts contend stirs forth our spirits, moves in us with faith profound, nearer the Master. There but for constancy of his encouragement, what valour could withstand against disaster? Now I'm going to sing the first verse to my Unite to Save UK anthem, to the same tune as He Who Would Valiant Be, or the rebirth, what against our hearts contend. I'll sing it to high pitch, see if I can reach. Unite to Save UK comes with great meaning. Beyond the waving flags proudly arisen, then let our hearts combine, in song and verse unite, to get our country back before disaster. Do you see how the last two lines match perfectly? Against disaster and before disaster. Because I want the Christian faith under my leadership as a new Archbishop of Canterbury to inject moral virility into our culture. So I sing the next verse to Unite to Save UK anthem. No darkness round him cast shall disinherit his noble conquest found firm in afflictions. Come what may cause him fright, he'll resist with his might, till they all flee away to his rejoicing. A very quick story regarding this new birth of this hymn, and I'll give him 100, which I call 100 of my grandchildren. I was a candidate in the 2008 by-election at Houghton Place and Howden when they had 26 candidates. I wonder why. I didn't do much, but the Guardian gave me a report that says, oh, this guy, Tom Darwood, he wants to be the future Archbishop, King, and the Pope. So he's the reporter sort of said it in tongue in cheek. And I always remember a man with his 4 or 5 year old child behind him came up to me and said, hey mate, I think you're absolutely fucking mad. He didn't swear, he said, I think you're absolutely mad. Now within 5 minutes, when he listened to me, he apologised. He said, I'm so sorry, I feel such an idiot. I didn't realise what you understood. Now, regarding this hymn, as I was packing some stuff in my car, a chap came up to me and says, what are you about? You've got a poster which says, is this the face of the future king? And people are laughing at you. I said, and he said, what's these books you've got? So he picked it up. He picked up my hymn book. And he opened it on this hymn. And when he read what he saw, his jaw dropped. He says, blimey, can I buy your book? He wanted then and there to buy this book, my hymn book. And I said to him, no, this is for the Church of England. I could have made lots of money with my hymns by now. It's going right back to one of my first new hymns I wrote was in Basildon, in those concrete blocks which architects don't live in, but they like other people to live in, and the locals called these concrete blocks Alcatraz. And I wrote a wonderful hymn related to the creation scene. And I could have made lots of money with that hymn, but I said, no, I'm under divine guidance, a divine commission to do a job for the Most High. And that chap respected me. He says, I've got to respect you. I only got 25 votes, but that doesn't matter. I wasn't there to make a political statement. I was there to make a mark, to show what God is leading me to become the future Archbishop, Monarch and Pope. You can read that elsewhere in my other websites, but I'm going to concentrate on this last hymn now. So I'm going to sing the last verse to the rebirth of He who would valiant be. Ever in this pilgrim found, avowed with intent, Lord, in his labours served, extend thy kingdom. And this is one of my favourite lines. Upon this folding spire, O Holy Spirit, come. In all we do and say, with love compelling. Remember those last two words, because I'm going to use them again as the last two words to my Unite to Save UK anthem. Strewn of this discontent, endured this summer, we are a force to see these conflicts resolved. Then let our hearts combine, in song and verse unite, to get our country back with love compelling. Then I want people who sing this anthem in the future to finish with a chant, what do we want? We want our country back. How are we going to do it? With love compelling. Join us. Unite to Save UK. So there, Your Grace, I've ended my impromptu talk and singing. Pardon my singing. Someone thinks I've got a nice voice. Well, I went to Scotland once and I sang in my Scottish anthem, and the Scots went absolutely balmy. They loved it. Oh, I'm boasting now, sorry. Well, I have written some lovely things. Well, it's over to you now, Dr. Williams. I'm not going to go on the computer and email hundreds of people. No, I'm going to leave it to this video with God's grace, His hand on it. O Lord, may your Holy Spirit touch the hearts and minds of those who see this video. They may see your hand upon this wonderful country, the union of kingdoms, that the same hand which touched this island many, many years ago may reinstate its presence in our midst. For this we ask in the name of our Lord and Saviour, Jesus Christ. Bring forth, O Lord, thy kingdom here on earth, as it is in heaven, and may thy people swell with wonder and joy at thy name.